conference will now be recorded.
We're all good. Okay. Barry, can you hear us? He's muted? Okay. Oh, thank you.
He is.
Oh, got it. I thought, very good, Mike.
I start pledging allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Might have a chance to look at the minutes. Or need a minute?
Just a minute, I
All
was just finishing them up.
Might have a connection problem.
Yeah,
Look, he was in his car.
I'm sorry.
He was in the vehicle when his video showed up on there.
Yeah,
Then he took it off, but he was in the vehicle. So he
that's good observation.
may have a connection problem.
Yeah, I noticed when I'm on State Road 8 heading to
Oh,
Lima
it's
Road,
awful.
it's like I can't even talk with anybody until I get to Lima Road.
Yeah, if I'm on the phone with someone or Melissa's calling me, she's like, hey, I'm on 8, so I might lose you. Be wary. Any additions or corrections to it?
I had a note, I went through Kurt's number of items that are captured here. And at the very end, I have just his note that we can implement a tax to get more funds. I think he was talking about a locality can implement a tax to get more funds. I don't know, it's not in the minutes, I don't know if it needs to be, that it was just an advisory note that he shared. It's not really, I don't know that it's really a note for us to act on anyway, so.
Do you mind repeating it? That's under which of these items? Number 9?
Well, it would have been the very last thing in my notes that line up with your numbers 1 through 9. The very last thing I had then was, I made a note, can implement a tax to get more funds. I think he was just speaking though about Albion, like the locality,
Yeah,
the local tax
we can't
authority,
do that.
so. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be added unless
Right.
you guys do.
I wouldn't think so.
Not an instruction for us to write a
Right.
tax, so.
Okay.
The only correction I have is in the very last paragraph before adjournment, it says RD meeting instead of RDC meeting.
Oh,
That's the
about
only thing I saw.
Okay.
Very minor.
I can hopefully correct that to get Josh's signature. Once we adjourn, I'll go over there and print it.
Need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the minor correction.
I'll second. I'll do that. My brain is fried. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Old business. We need to have 2 RDC members at the March 24th Housing Committee meeting, Keith Leatherman with Rolling River Bluffs Housing Development, Phase 3 and 4.
By the way, did everybody get what I sent? Okay.
I did, yes.
Emails?
It was Keith Letterman's proposal. Okay. And
Yesterday you sent
I
something.
believe so, yes. Yeah, okay.
I'm available to go to that.
You are?
Yeah.
I didn't go. It doesn't matter to me.
Just so I understand, is the request for appointing 2 RDC members, is that just for the 324 meeting or is that for the ad hoc committee going forward?
Just for the meeting.
Just for this first meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not available, that's why I was curious. If that means I'm never gonna be able to.
Right, yeah,
Understandable.
just for this meeting.
Looks like it's up to Josh and I to show up.
Okay, very good. Josh and Mike. Okay.
All right. New business. To accept the 2025 TIF management report and 26-27 TIF spending plan, including adopting RDC resolution 2026-01.
Which is, as you know, in that report. So that if you adopt it, I guess you'd be making a motion, I don't know.
Is that what this thing is here?
Yes, in your packet, to basically, I guess, accept the management report and adopt that resolution, 2026-01. We do this annually, actually a little ahead of time, I believe, compared to when we did it last year. But, and by the way, as I look at this thing, I'd be curious your impression, but it was a formality. We have to do it. The 26 spending plan, we actually adopted November-ish of last year. And so at first I was revising that in this plan, and then Carol and I discussed it and figured she felt, no, let's not do it that way because the DLGF, Department of Local Government and Finance, they have the other numbers in there. And so as a result, I went back to just keeping it the way we had adopted in November. But my point in bringing that up is that the list that you have at the end, it's a little spreadsheet with a red ink. It looks like this.
Yeah.
Near the back of, yeah, there you go. I guess it's separate. Okay, made it separate. That's of real value, I think, as we move forward. This is our as we go sheet, and so I find a lot of value in that. The actual TIF management report itself, we have to do it because we have to notify. The resolution says that we're going to capture all of the incremental value. Therefore, we notify all of the 4 or 5 taxing bodies about that. So it just it's a legal formality, and we go through it. But it lists out all of the year's spending plan to the end of each TIF district, which I don't know if anybody has that accurate of a crystal ball. So, but certainly every year we have the crystal ball, and so this, I think, the spreadsheet that originally Carol and I came up with this last year, that this is a good running account as we will go forward. We'll just be sure that this stays accurate. And by the way, any of these, we're approving. Well, it's a plan. We're approving kind of general categories. We're not really listing any specific projects in this TIF spending report and the corresponding 2 years of spending plan. That gets decided on a case by case as we move forward. For instance, tonight, next topic, the wastewater treatment plant project requesting some TIF money. So when you're ready, I guess I'm thinking one motion would be appropriate where you accept the 2025 TIF management report and the 26-27 TIF spending plan, and making motion all in one, adopt the RDC resolution number. That's just my suggestion. If you see it a different way, if you want to do it separately, that's still good and fine.
There goes a hot topic where one thing was, not fully agreed upon. You might do them separately, but
Right.
as a whole, I think it's wise to do them all at once. For the sake of time.
By the way, one other thing I'll point out, the last page of the spending plan, TIF report, the TIF management plan, management report, is this, and this is just all these groups are gonna come before us for their tax abatement in the next month or two.
CF
March,
ones will be
or
coming in.
April and-
Is that what you're talking about? Their CF ones will be coming in the
Yes,
spring
thank
tax
you,
season?
CF ones.
Okay. Mike, are you gonna want to discuss this at all before I make a motion?
No.
Because you're not making a motion, so. Do I need to make a motion?
Sure.
I will make a motion to accept the 2025 TIF management report and approve the 2026-27 TIF spending plan. And also adopt resolution number 2026-01.
All in favor?
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Got ahead of you.
Second.
Mike seconds it. All right, now we can vote. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
All right, wastewater treatment plant pump station rehab project. Only one bid.
Yeah,
Nobody else. They just
no,
turned
it
it
was
down.
a sole bid. Some of it was kind of a little bit, mysterious, but then I thought I heard a little bit of the explanation of the dollar amount supposedly of this project for these type of companies. It sort of fell, it was too much for the smaller one, not enough for the bigger companies supposedly. But nonetheless, and then the estimate was a lot less because it was based on something that when they first were dealing with the issue and looking at it from 2017. And, they didn't really get I don't know, I mean, the engineers had it, but I don't know that they did a full, real update of the estimate. So that's why we came in over budget to the tune of about 150,000. And the Public Works Committee thought, let's see if our group here would be amenable to that overage of the project. And then the council kind of informally by consent agreed that this board be approached.
Which one was this, the pump station?
It's the one out by the wastewater treatment plant out by those, the ponds.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
In other words, all the sewage in town.
Good point, Mike. Yeah, that's exactly what Terry was emphasizing. In fact, it was kind of viewed because of that as a project of urgency, critical need.
Right. Those ponds still doing pretty good out there? Because I know that before we had problems with some of the levels out there.
Ammonia level.
Yeah, ammonia levels.
I mean, they're always, working to manipulate the levels and so forth, but they seem to be on top of it, and they're very, very knowledgeable. What's necessary treatment wise.
I know a couple years ago, they were having lots of different problems. Trying to get it under control.
Yeah, they have a great crew. They're all there's three, Terry, Aaron, and Bryce. So, yeah, they are asking if you would consider 150 of TIF funds. Their operating budget funds on hand, they have the money on hand, but they, they're looking to kind of, which is about, they have about 1.2 almost 1.2 million of current fund balance right now.
You're looking at, I see you're looking at a 50-50 split here.
Between the two
Yeah.
tips, yeah.
75,000 each.
I'm not gonna say no.
That's an almost yes vote.
And, yeah, I'm not gonna say no. I mean, let's face it, we all need our toilets to flush and our sinks to drain and everything.
And the project's been awarded, that's not the issue per se, but it's a funding request for assistance.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and help out the wastewater with the 150,000, 75 from tip 1, 75 from tip 2.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again.
Aye.
And the minutes of, that you just approved have all the talking points there. 2, 4, 5, yeah, 9 points that Kurt went over with us at the last meeting.
So, Steve, do you know what came of the binder from that discovery when we were at the last RDC meeting? Carol found the binder that Kurt thought would have what he was looking for in it.
Economic development plan.
Yeah.
No, there's
That
no,
was from-
there's been
from-
no change. We gave him what we had originally, he had all of that, and I don't think there's been any further search of that or
Because I
anything.
thought he sounded like that had to be in that
Yeah.
document for that bond.
At least the starting point. It might have been an amended one.
So I guess my offer would stand to still come out and try to help dig through records so that we can know what to amend.
I'll make it a note to talk to somebody tonight
Okay,
to see if those documents helped Kurt
yeah.
or if they didn't.
Was that under number housekeeping where identify the town's current economic development?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
He seemed pretty excited to see that bond document.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because there was a CD in it too.
Did he, refresh me, did he, that was actually, Carol gave him something right on the spot, right?
Well, it seemed like there was gonna be an
Pretty much,
exchange, yeah.
No, we
She
haven't
had
heard back from
the
him.
CD-ROM was with it, and he thought that should have.
She hasn't said anything to me. Of course, I didn't ask her.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't shoot an email to ask
Well,
you, I probably should
I'll
have.
be honest with you, Kurt threw so much at us in a
He
short
did.
amount of time.
He
that,
did.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yes, we can talk about some of this, but I think we all need to be here to talk about these 9 points.
Right.
I don't disagree with you, maybe we can, the three of us though, toss it around a little bit and see what we think would be priorities and then take one for the next meeting to talk about.
Yes, no on.
And we can follow up on that.
So we have an action item on the first one. We'll follow up with Carol and we can get the ball rolling if we still need to
Yeah.
investigate. That second one, I think we kind of agreed here that we didn't really have any significantly decreasing property values in the tips that we have.
No, but boy, there's questions. I look at tip 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you look at some of the assessed values in there,
Yeah,
How can you have a bunch of ground to have a zero?
Tax exempt? Still wouldn't have an assessed value or anything. You just don't pay taxes on it.
Right.
I don't know.
It's, that land's worth something.
Yeah.
Right now, it's worth a lot.
You know, I can be very simple-minded. This drives me crazy that we don't use the same language on anything. So, Albion Town TIF, is that one or two?
One.
I'm gonna write it on my map. Albion North
Which is the blue.
Wait a minute.
This
Blue is
one,
is
two,
one.
three.
One,
This is one.
two,
Yep.
This is two.
three.
And this is three.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. And then if I look at the reports,
Mhm.
I'm looking for this. And I look at all this stuff. I don't really say on here what they are either.
Well,
They
So-
do, they do, tip one, and they'll label it tip one and two, and three, I
Where
believe.
do I see it? Oh, in the notes at the bottom,
Yeah,
maybe.
Fund
Oh, that
four
says 1, 2,
forty-five
3.
is number of tip one, 446,
445 is that
Fund.
one?
yeah, fund, go look back.
Well, I was getting the fund numbers.
There you go, there you go, I'm sorry.
That says, okay, so there we go. Still doesn't say. Okay, one is 4445,
4445, yeah. Fund number internally.
two is 4446,
Mhm.
and this is 4447.
Yeah, fund number that Carol has in her system.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I'm like, I need somebody to give me a cheat sheet.
Barry, can you hear us out of curiosity?
Oh,
You're on mute.
yeah, we can't hear you.
You're muted, Barry, it looks like, on your end.
So Mike, which one were you talking about having zero assessed values in it?
Oh,
In here?
stump.
Is this the assessed values right here? Okay, so these are the assessed values.
But there's nothing there.
No, there is,
No.
he has a piece of property.
Well, it's a piece of land.
Yeah, there's no house. Yeah,
Right.
that's what you're asking.
But a piece of land should still have an assessed value.
Huh.
Well, if that's an error.
You know, if you go through that, look and see, okay, I see. you know,
Barry, we assume you can hear us. If you, whether you're unmuted, if you need to talk, just unmute, whatever you just did, you're unmuted, you can talk. And we can
I
acknowledge
wonder
if
if
you want
we
to do a
should
test.
just ask Ben to look at our property list and just give him a quick look over, see if he sees anything.
Carol, and she went to, oh, she didn't talk to Ben. She talked to Shelley.
Hmm.
But she had to get some information. And she struggles to get all correct information because it's not an easy thing.
Sure.
So, but Carol was gonna, I thought she told me she was gonna ask Ben about that.
What number are you on?
Number 2, wondering if there's any
Yeah.
concerns over the assessed values in any of these.
Oh.
That we would want to consider doing anything, although the way you would have to prove it would be, there's probably somebody in the middle, not on an edge.
Right, so, you know,
That would be
yeah,
weird. I think that's a really low priority personally.
I do, yeah.
You agree? The third one here was,
Combining meetings to meet numerous TIF deadlines sooner.
I think that'll, from my perspective, I think it'll be something that would or could, or, you know, occur organically as needed. You know,
Yeah.
if Carol's involved in certain things, and as I am as well with different TIF deadlines, we'll kind of see how it goes. But the biggest ones coming up, as I pointed out, are the CF1s. And I did talk to each of the companies, and they gave me various projections of when they would have their form in. So the only one I got so far is the one from Andrew McGill. So as long as we get them all done by, let me see, is it May 15 filing deadline for the CF1. And so approval, the council would have to approve things at its May 12 meeting. And then the RDC, presumably if that's at the May meeting, we're meeting now with the third Wednesday. That's May 13, the day after the council meeting. But it seemed to me like, might have been a flip-flop last year too. Maybe on something, maybe it probably wasn't on this. So we may have to, the April, and we're probably not going to be ready, all of the CF1s. So, we would probably do it this year. There might be one or two that would come in after the council has already approved for this group. But, unless we did a special meeting in May. So anyways, to be determined. I'll get into it more in the month of April to see how they're coming along, these companies, and but it's likely it's gonna be, I'm sure, after our April 15 meeting. So we'll just have to figure out if, how we want to handle that. If we want to meet the day after the council meeting and kind of approve what normally is in the reverse order, I believe.
I guess, if Kurt says we need to do it ahead of time, then we probably would have to, but.
Is the town or is the EDC or somebody sending the notifications to these guys to remind them to get their stuff filed, or nobody?
The reminder came from me.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah,
But they
just it was
got
an
one, so.
email, and they all responded.
Okay, as I said, these are all, have been on the books for a while, or they do them all the time, so.
Mhm. It was the same people,
Yeah.
actually, that was dealt with last year, so that made it easier.
Okay. I personally feel like we're driven by the town's schedule more than we're gonna drive the town's schedule as far as getting
Yeah.
stuff done.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with
let's
that.
see how we can change that. Residential TIF. Cable.
I think, what?
Yeah, though I thought there was some stuff down at State House where they're changing things up, and from what he said, it's just by next June or something like that.
If we were gonna do one, we needed to do it before 2027,
Like
July 2027.
Something like that, but I think stuff changed since that meeting, and that may not be an issue, so
Not be.
we'll have to find out, because I was reading.
But I think some of this is all contingent on the housing project,
I agree with you.
Right,
We don't need a
because
residential TIF if we don't have a project.
if we don't have a project, we don't need it.
I agree with you. That's why I just said table.
yeah,
It'll
That,
come up.
along with I'm gonna jump by the redevelopment authority, but create a home buyer financial assistance program. If we don't have a housing project, shouldn't need that. I don't think.
So what you're saying on number 4, creating residential housing TIF, that we need to let some water go under the bridge, see how these 2 potential housing developments shake out. Of course, the bigger one is what will happen, that Melanie would be involved in. So we're kind of in a waiting pattern on that one right now. But to me, that one seems really positive they both are very positive, but the second one being larger and being that we've got the 2 entities involved, experienced in economic development and its various, you know, housing TIF creation and this and that. That looks just real promising to me. And both are actually, and I think we, you know, hopefully we do as much as we can,
The one thing nice
meaning
about,
both RDC and the
you know,
townhouse.
if you look at both projects, of course, this one is smaller, you know, Rolling River will be smaller. But that may give you potentially an idea of how many people are out there looking for a home in Albion. You know,
Right.
if they would,
Test cases, yeah.
if they would get some
Market study.
you know, are they gonna build homes before they have them sold, or are they gonna wait till they're sold? You know, and then how long is it gonna take to sell them? That's gonna put a lot of things out there.
Sound like those ones that Rolling River Bluffs was gonna be a little more expensive than the ones out here.
What are they? You know, I mean, I'm looking at,
With the houses that are already out there, they're not terribly big houses. They're like 1,400 square foot houses that are out there.
and that's about what's gonna go here in this direction.
Yeah, but there's two, like the prices, pricing were like way different. Which is about the size of house that most people around here are gonna wanna buy. They're not, you know, middle class working.
Okay, the price point of the housing for out there is $225 to $295. And,
Keith's is 280 to 300.
okay,
I thought it was like closer to like 320, 340 on the top end, but maybe I was wrong. But
you know, and a lot of it has to do with where they can get the lot price
right.
too, you know.
What did you say McGill's was 225?
225 to 295
The 290?
it's on,
Yep.
It says page 3 of 3.
The ones north end of town will be a little more attractive because, you know, the railroad tracks right there.
You're right. I mean, the railroad is noisy. I hear it every day.
Everybody in town does. It's a matter of how loud.
The other interesting thing about, you know, potentially the McGill subdivision in that that's a pre-development study is going to be done. That'll be pretty enlightening. I mean, it hopefully will tie together everything and really bring together, okay, here's the market value that, you know, Albion will support of homes. Here's the number that it might support, and just, it'd be a lot of good information. But to your point though, Mike, you're right. You know, if Keith Letterman goes forward, and that's going to be its own test market, it's study of sorts, just, you know, boots on the ground, boom, here it is. Start, you know,
Right.
going up. Maybe not at a fast pace, but, you know, I don't know if they're going to build spec homes or not.
No, I mean, chances are they'll have a home built out here before anything ever happens out there.
Depends on the size of the project.
Right, you know, and like, I'm gonna go to Topeka's project, technically started in 19. They got roads built, they don't have a single house. And so 1926, 6, 7 years, nothing.
That's kind of like, there's a little industrial park in Monroeville, north side of town, where I've been delivering stuff down that way for many years, and there's nothing. There's, you can get the roof that's kind of flattened out, and you got grass, and there's road through there because they got street lamps, but there's no businesses built. Interesting. Get this stuff built and nothing. Big gamble.
Do you remember if Kurt said where other communities have done this, creating the financial assistance program for home buyers? Did he talk about where he's seen that?
No.
I'd be
I don't
curious
remember.
to hear more about it, I guess.
Right.
Well, because that's interesting because, I mean, that maybe something like that could tip the scale to say, aha, you know, you should attract the buyer and with the ability to get financed and,
I mean, you think about what we do for facade grants and.
yeah, and you
the
tie it
small-
to
Yeah, I
that
mean,
location. You know,
what if we
that
reallocated
subdivision. Yeah.
part over all of our facade grants for 2 years or 3 years or something? I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be a huge sum of money to help somebody close a deal.
Right.
I'd like to learn more
Closing
about that
costs.
one, I guess.
Closing costs about $5,000.
Right.
Yeah, it can make a big difference for somebody.
I can remember the first house I bought, closing costs was a big thing.
When we were out, I was out in the state of Maine, and we were selling a home, and it was right at that point where I believe it was Barack Obama who had it was some kind of a tax credit maybe,
Mm,
and that made the difference where buyer came in. I mean, of course, that was a federal thing, but just the power of that, and if we,
Down payment assistance.
Yeah,
and if we find out, let's say, if one subdivision, which we sort of know is gonna develop quicker than the larger one, and if that doesn't go well, then maybe we would put some emphasis on, hey, we need to stimulate the market by kind of a subsidy of sorts, or what, there's probably a dozen ways you would design a
Right.
program, but that could really make a difference. To your point, Lori.
But the project yet, so.
Sure.
There's really no need of doing that now. I haven't seen this many houses for sale lately. Last year, there's a lot of houses for sale.
we need rental properties.
I thought Keith told me that all of the Granite Ridge homes that were built there in White Oak,
Those are,
Village of White Oak, thank you, that those are now
they're all sold.
sold, and I presumed he also meant occupied by the owners, that I don't know,
The homes are all
Better built.
that are built.
that are built, correct.
Nice.
There's still quite a few lots.
Mhm.
With that not being done out there, that kind of makes you wonder, how these other projects gonna go if we can't even finish this one. But those are also a little more expensive though too. Well,
The typical family with kids aren't gonna,
right,
unless you have two professionals, two professional wage earners, you know.
there's probably a stipulation on how big the house has to be. I don't know the details on that, but the houses all that are out there are all probably 2,000 square feet.
There were some stipulations on that. But there is no HOA out there
I was gonna say, there were
There's no-
stipulations in the Village of White Oaks too, when we bought that, we bought
Right.
a spec home there,
Yeah,
and there was no enforcement of
no,
what Keith
there-
put together as a
no.
covenant for the,
covenants,
Covenants.
that's what,
But
there was some, but
I can tell you in the 15 years or so we've been gone out of there, how many of those covenants have been broken in that period of time,
Oh.
just by driving through.
I would.
They're not enforced.
Wouldn't have been able to build a pole barn in your front yard.
Pole barn, fences, there sheds, there were all kinds of things that were in the covenant that it's in the garbage can by now, I'm sure. It's good intentions, but if you don't have any skin in the game and to enforce it.
Right.
This next one.
3 to 7 member RDC, I think we have a tough enough time getting 3 people, but
Yeah.
consistently show up.
No.
I don't know what we're missing by not having a town council member serve, or what that benefit of that really is.
It's a direct pipeline to the meeting, that pretty much, I mean, you're gonna know how the town council thinks
Right.
with somebody sitting on here, but he said something about
Oh, is it conflict of interest or whether two,
Well, they wouldn't be able to be paid, they wouldn't
Right,
receive a
it's payment,
stipend,
right,
yeah, we'd have to do away with our
Yeah.
pay for that to work, yeah. I don't know, I feel like the town council has been very open to trying to make more communication
Yeah.
opportunities.
It's a small town, people talk.
It is,
You think?
I think we can do that other ways. It's about improving communication.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Bylaws.
I think we need to learn more before we talk about bylaws.
Yeah.
For me,
Right.
I would want to learn more.
Because I Googled it a little bit. Don't get a whole lot, very specific.
the funny thing, on maybe it relates, I'm not so sure, but at the last council meeting, and then it's gonna be on next week's council meeting, Kurt, brought up something came about Robert's Rules of Order.
I read that in the
And
minutes.
it was that, what it was, that, how it came up, if it was alluded to maybe in something, and then Kurt kind of said, in fact, I think he came up, that's right, Kurt came up with an ordinance ahead of time, everybody's like, huh? Because he saw that, that it isn't the way to go, in his opinion. And then the council wanted a couple of weeks to reflect on it, so they will deal with it this coming week. In other words, they're looking at abolishing Robert's Rules of Order, and then what? It's just you
That's what I was
go
gonna say,
by
I
state
would
statute
know, oh, okay.
as needed, and and with your advice to your attorney.
That might explain why the Kenneval, sorry, off topic, but I sat through Kenneville City Council meetings and wondered why they weren't run the same way. Maybe that's it. Maybe they don't use Robert's Rules of Order. They
Well-
just like go through things like
Well,
this.
and Kurt said that you would almost need a parliamentarian
Ah,
appointed and sort of like there or something, because it's so
ah.
precise, But so, I don't know if they're just relying on, normal rules of order or something, common sense, I don't know. But
Interesting.
yeah, we'll see with how they act on it next week, if they
I'm all
abolish it.
I'm all for any organization having bylaws personally, just because I think it clarifies everything. And I think I learned that like the Noble County Plan Commission just went through kind of changing, I don't know if they call it bylaws, but their operating procedures for their meetings and what they're gonna do if it's 10 o'clock at night, if they're, how they decide if they're gonna continue or do a continuous to the next meeting, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really interesting.
That rings a bell now that you triggered my memory on, Kurt said it would basically be up to the president
Yeah,
of the board, of the council, what's allowed, what's kind of a lot of discretionary.
to set the rules for the meeting or
Yeah,
hearing.
for saying, okay, we've heard enough, move on to the topic,
Yeah.
or getting too late, we'll table it, and stuff like that.
Okay, that's
You ever go to the
interesting.
School board meeting?
No.
You need to.
I've heard about
You needed to be at the one right after they wanted that
The referendum.
referendum.
it. I heard there's another one coming.
It was a 10-minute meeting. Nobody got to talk.
Yeah.
Except.
Yep.
Jared Knipper and, well, maybe a couple more on board, but,
I've definitely sat through enough meetings to know that it would be nice if somebody could move it along. If
sometimes you get.
somebody had the authority to say, we're either gonna make a decision or we're gonna table it and move on. It's tedious.
We don't really have a lot of things that take a ton of time here, so.
No, I'm interested in it, but I don't know what the benefit would be at this point. I don't know if we struggle with not having bylaws. Fiscal plan, I agree with that one.
And actually, it's kind of being done. We hired the town just hired Jeff Peters, in his company, he and his partner. Anyways, they're going to do, it's going to involve the TIF funds and utility funds as well, so.
The real deep dive into finances to understand, is that what's happening there?
Yeah. Yes. And it will actually, it's the same group that will be, we hired them, they'll be doing on May 20th, I believe it is, the presentation here to the taxing
The
district.
neutralization.
Yeah, TIF, thank you, TIF neutralization and TIF.
Oh, right.
We sat through one last year.
No, that was
Yeah, Jeff Peters, annual TIF presentation of the taxing and TIF neutralization, TIF report. So that'll be May 20. But his, the actual, I don't think he gave us a date on the actual fiscal plan, but we'll, as we know more, we'll keep the RDC in that loop. And in fact, when he presents on that, that might be something you want to come to if it's at a council meeting. Okay, I got the gist then that, yeah, we're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern, but there's enough that's going to be happening that's going to keep RDC involved with the pulse of housing and other kinds of TIF funding requests and things like that. And like I said, that spreadsheet will be a good asset for us, resource to look at, what's in the years ahead, with this year and next.
Thought I had questions for you, but I don't remember. I'll think of it later. And very fun.
There's, yeah.
All right.
You guys have anything else?
I don't have anything else. Do you?
I don't have anything. We
I
have a
make a motion, we
I'll second.
I'll vote aye.
All in favor? Aye.
We just adjourned, Barry.
Thanks for joining us, Barry.
have a good evening.
If you've got 3 minutes, I'll
Yep.
print out the
Sure
third
thing.
page of the minutes.
Kill this.
Yeah.
Can you folks hear me at all?
I can't now.
Okay,
No.
I literally was trying to get in several minutes ago, and I apologize. I'm using my phone, which I never do. I wanted to talk a little bit, I know you've adjourned, but I wanted to talk about the Robert's Rules of Order. Remember who's telling you that, that's an attorney, and I think one of the things that he doesn't want us to do or get any organization to do is get bogged up in details where you approve something but you don't follow the rules, and then you're out of luck. And so he's trying to, I think that's a good defensive move to make sure that there's no protocols.
I see.
Interesting.
I get it. That makes sense, Barry.
And I also want you folks to know that my level of interest is not reflected in my talk. I'm literally trying to learn and listen. And so don't mistake my lack of chiming in for lack of interest. I'm literally trying to figure it out.
You're not alone.
Yeah. Join the club.
We're always learning.
Well, thank you, Barry. Have you already disconnected? He's not kidding. He doesn't like
We
to.
lost the sound again.
Let me end this now then.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you, Barry.
No longer being recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Oh,
Press the wrong button again. I pressed it once, pause.